You can kind of hear them. And they're beautiful, gross and moldy. Oh, listen, gorgeous. Hello, welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. Got a little bit of a garden project to work on today to prepare for the spring garden, and I want to talk about the spring garden. Now in here, I don't plan to grow a lot of frost tender things this spring. I plan to put that elsewhere. I've got a relatively new growing space called the lane that I am working on. We should be able to finish it this winter and grow a lot of our summer crops out there, especially the vining things. But I do have, you know, a decent amount of archway in here for things that would need a trellis. So I will grow some vining things, but mainly I would really like this to be a brassica space, even going into the summer. So we'll talk about that. I have this bed of lima beans over here that is definitely dead, but there's plenty of pods on here that still have beans in them. You can kind of hear them. There we go. So I'm going to be picking these while we talk. And a lot of you have heard this story before, so it's a little bit of a repeat. But I want to give a little bit of backstory so you can understand my thought process going into the spring garden. We have had this greenhouse for about 5 seasons or 5 years at this point. I haven't been growing in it the whole time. When I first got it, I actually put pigs and some ducks in it for the summertime so they could help clear the land so that I can make this a garden space as easy as possible, and that did work very well. We are growing in southwestern Kentucky, zone 7A, and we have relatively mild winters here. We are coming up on some temperatures in the teens in about a week, and those temperatures really aren't conducive to growing much, even with a high tunnel. If we don't get a lot of sun, you know, beating down on the greenhouse during the day, it's not going to retain a lot of heat. It will retain some, especially if I water the day before a freeze, but it's really not enough to get a lot by. So I try to have everything harvested out of the greenhouse by Christmas time so that I can reset the beds and plant again in around February, when our days are definitely getting longer and warming up, and a lot of the brassicas I can regrow from different starts and get a second harvest. Brassica plants are the plants that we really love to consume the most. Cabbages, broccolis, cauliflowers, things like that have a lot of that growing in here right now, and some of it isn't as developed as I would like at this time of year, and we'll talk about that too. I'm still trying to figure out the best timing for planting in like late summer for my fall harvest, and honestly I think I need to start my things earlier, which is why I'm thinking about this now, because what I plant in the greenhouse in spring and summer really does matter if I want to have things, you know, harvested and cleaned out by a certain time, so that my most important crop I'm able to harvest in good timing and getting as much as I can out of it. So here's an example. I have cabbages in this bed and they're beautiful. They are starting to head, but they are like nowhere near close harvestable size, and we are just a couple weeks away from Christmas at this point. And we are about a week away from some pretty low temperatures. If you're watching this during Vlogmas time, I am about 5 days ahead on Vlogmas, so if you're local and you're looking at the weather, that might be where the discrepancy is. But yeah, if I had started these a little bit earlier and got them in the greenhouse a little bit earlier, I think these would be much further along. Now, this absolutely is not going to be a waste. These leaves are just as edible as the center head. Look at that little baby thing. It's like the size of a golf ball. So far, I have had much more success growing from the late winter into early spring as far as brassicas go. So I'm still trying to figure things out. Sometimes the end of summer, early fall can be very hot. And so it's a little bit of a balancing act, trying to get things like brassicas through that time in order to produce. One of the plants that I've only grown from late winter into early spring is this purple of Sicily cauliflower. We've got a decent head coming on here, but a lot of the heads are kind of small, and cauliflower is more sensitive to freezing than, let's say, broccoli, and so it's not having as great of a time. See, this head isn't super great. It's definitely not big, and it's, you know, starting to spread out, and I've even got a bad spot right there. Like, that's kind of gross and moldy. So really, I could eat the leaves of this plant fine. We could pick what we can off of, you know, the head here, but that's really not what I hoped for out of that plant. And that's not what I usually get out of the purple of Sicily cauliflower when it's grown in spring. And I have a little bit of a hunch with this. I think a lot of the times brassicas tend to do better when they are planted late winter into early spring, because they're growing the most at a time when the days are getting warmer and the days are getting longer, so there's more sunlight, and I think that's better for them. This broccoli, however, this is the Green Magic hybrid. This has done fantastic, so I know I can grow that no matter what season it is. I say that probably not the dead of summer, but this past fall was very warm, and I didn't have any of these broccolis go to flower. It was actually pretty incredible, so I may push my limits with this. The broccoli is easy, one of our most favorites, but I think the teens coming up may be not nice to some of these plants, so I'm going to be harvesting this bed before that freeze, and then, as I mentioned, we'll start paring down to get ready for springtime. This past spring was my first time growing a bunch of onions, like a whole lot of onions. I've grown little onion harvests in the past, but this was a really big year. I was trying very hard to get onions right, and I'm happy to report that that did go very well. Almost too well. I did have a box of onions in my shed that went bad. Unfortunately, it got overtaken by fruit flies, and we tried to separate good onions from bad onions, and let's just say it wasn't worth it. So that box of onions did go into the compost, so we do get another chance with that nutrition in the garden this coming year. I'd like to grow onions again, but I'm going to grow far fewer. I have a ton of onions that I preserved. I canned some. I freeze-dried a lot of them. Last year when I grew onions, I guess it was not even last year, it was earlier this year. Last season when I grew onions, I grew them from starts from Dixondale, and I think this year, since I do have a surplus of onions saved, I want to try starting the seeds myself. I hear it's pretty easy. I have done a little bit of that in the past. Actually, I do have some bunching onions over here. These are more likely to really take off in the early spring, so I think I'll probably leave these guys here and maybe plant something on the backside to grow over top. We'll see what I do with that. I have learned that onions really do need more sun than you think they do, and so shading them may not be the best thing. But anyhow, I think I'm going to try to start the bulbing onions from seed and maybe just grow a bed or two of them. This is kind of going to be more of a year of it's okay if it fails, but I want to try to learn how to start them from seed because that's more sustainable. Everything is kind of the same color when it comes to this trellis right now, but if I kind of shake the plants, I can hear whether or not there's any pods on them, so that's nice. I think there's nothing here. We can see these, but you can also hear them. This bed of lima beans I started when we were still getting frosts in the early or late spring this past season, and they've been here the whole time, growing and producing great. It's one of those set it and forget it crops that's very forgiving. Highly recommend if you like the taste of lima beans. That is probably the biggest tip that I have, and it's the biggest tip that I got when I was learning how to garden, is make sure that you're growing things that you actually like to eat, because then you're gonna, have the most reward and really have more of a drive to get the thing done. Now I say that, and it's obvious that I've neglected this bed for some time, but I do like lima beans. We had some the other day with dinner, just really simple. I kind of used it like you would use a pinto bean. I actually roasted some squash, some spaghetti squash, and then combined it with salsa and cheese and some shredded pork. It was very good. I've also been talking about for quite a while that I want to make a pickled bean salad, and one of these years I'll actually do it. I know that these calico beans, I think that's what they're called, calico lima beans, these are beautiful in pickled bean mixes, and I would not be surprised if we get some volunteers of those beans or these beans in this bed. And that's something that I say that I struggle with it every year. It's definitely a blessing to have plants that just come back where they grew last year. but it does make planning a little bit difficult because I like to leave volunteer plants. The volunteers are, you know, the survivors from the pests and the disease and the conditions, and they genetically are superior to their parents. Because a lot of times, you know, we get seeds online. A lot of seeds are actually grown overseas in far different conditions. And if we can adapt the plants to our conditions, it's just going to make things easiest for us as a gardener. So it's very hard for me to say no to a volunteer plant. And so some of what I grow in the middle here in the greenhouse might change if I've got a lot of volunteers and I decide that I want to leave them and see what happens. Getting back to the talk about timing as far as brassicas go. My friends who are Amish had beautiful, huge heads of cabbage in their outside gardens the middle of October. And so I need to talk to them and figure out, number one, what variety is that? And number two, when did they start it to get gorgeous heads in October? And what types of measures did they have to take in order to prevent things like cabbage moths? Did they really have to do a lot of work? Because that's one of the main things that we deal with in this area as far as brassicas are concerned when the weather is warm. And I'd really like to get some tips from them for success because they're clearly doing things the right way. The Amish have a wedding season. I mean, they can get married whenever they like, but a lot of them tend to get married when the hard work of the spring and summer has slowed down. So right around November time frame is wedding season, and a lot of them will grow the ingredients for the dishes that they cook for like the wedding feast, and they'll start things like celery in, you know, the middle of summer to get them harvestable by wedding time. That's really what I want. So once I get a chance to sit down and talk with some of them, I'll make sure that I relay that information that it's at least going to be valid for this area. Trying to listen. Nope, not done. Gardening with your senses. You see this pod? It's kind of started to open up. I'm pretty sure some of these have fully opened. And there's more than likely several seeds down in this bed. So we'll see what comes up in spring. Historically, when I have started brassicas for a late spring, early summer harvest, I start them in December as seeds, and they're going to be under grow lights in my shed. The plants will do better if I have the grow lights on for 14 to 16 hours. They're going to grow pretty fast at that rate, and so that kind of puts the pressure on to get them out of their start pots a little bit sooner. And so if I need to slow that down, the trick would be to give them a little bit less light. They're going to need about 12 hours, but 12 hours is far less than 16, and so that will help slow their growth down. And the 12 hours is plenty of light for them to do well. So it may kind of depend. So middle of December gives me about 8 weeks until middle of February. And if we are solidly in the middle of February by the time I put the starts out, we're usually out of the coldest part of the year in this area. It's when my baby goats are born, and it's when I can comfortably put my frost tolerant things out in the greenhouse. We're still going to have frost, we're still going to have freezes, but it shouldn't be so bad that it kills off the baby seedlings. And historically, when I start my seeds in December, plant out in February, I've got all of that harvested by June. And so in theory, that'll give me a month or two to kind of harvest, to get things reset as far as the greenhouse goes, and maybe plant again for the fall harvest in July. I think I did it in August this past year. I'll have to go back and see. I don't know if I want to be putting plant starts out here in July. I feel like that's a little bit too soon. But maybe I can start my seeds in July. I believe I started them in August this past year. Can't remember. It may have been July, and I may need to start them even sooner. Decent harvest. I'll shell these later. I do need to bring these pumpkins inside. Contrary to popular belief, ripe pumpkins can sit outside during a freeze and a freeze thaw cycle to a point. I do need to bring them in for those teens though. They're not gonna be able to withstand that. They are looking quite good, but I don't want them to go nasty on me. The carrots really are the next thing that I want to harvest and get out of here and reset this bed. This bed of carrots was planted using seed tape that I bought from Haas. It's a rainbow blend, and most of them are likely at the point where they're going to stay for the remainder of the winter if I don't pick them. Carrots will grow a lovely foliage, and then when they sense the winter coming, they'll take the sugars from the foliage and make a really lovely root. Winter's essentially here, and so we should have sizable roots. I have harvested one carrot already. Oh, not bad. Harvesting carrots is not going to be a today project, but that's a sneak peek of what we've got going on in here. We will probably harvest this within the next day or so, so you'll see it soon. I plan to make carrot top pesto. I didn't make any pesto using any basil this year because I didn't grow any basil this year. And I'd like to try some carrot top pesto. So if you have recipes using carrot top pesto, share them with me, please. I need some inspiration. Also, if you did it and you hated it, let me know that too. That is valuable information. I've been eyeballing this purple one over here, and I can't decide if I want to pick it today or in a few days. I'm gonna do it. Oh, look at it. I kind of snapped the end off a little bit. Oh, but it's gorgeous. So carrots will be on my spring plan. It's one of those things that we like to eat a lot of. I do buy carrots at the store, but homegrown carrots are so much better. They have a much sweeter, more buttery flavor and texture. Super yummy and, you know, supremely nutritious to what we can buy at the grocery store. I love these. And the seed tape was really easy to put down. I may do that again. I have a lot of carrot seed. Carrot seed is one of those seeds that doesn't last super long. I did just get some fresh seed, some older seed. It won't hurt just to throw it out into the bed. So carrot overseeding may be in our future as well, but probably not till February. Whoop, don't fall out. I'll stay. No. Whoa. Bentley, can you turn the light on behind you? Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you. That? The darkest carrot I have ever grown.
That is jet black.
Wow. Hold on.
I didn't even know that was a carrot.
Look at that on the inside.
It looks like jerky.
Well, that's incredible. You want to try it?
Yeah.
Ah! Look what it's doing to the knife.
Death. It's weird.
It's dark with the anthocyanins.
It tastes like a normal carrot.
Good. Do you want one?
I don't like raw carrot. Thank you.
Really?
Really,
I like
really.
cooked carrot.
Levi said he doesn't like raw carrot.
Never been my favorite.
But have you tried a garden fresh raw carrot?
Remington,
I'm
you
sure
don't
I have.
Mm. Remington wants to try it. No, you don't. Funny, it's less sweet than the orange carrot I ate the other day. I mean, it's good.
I have.
That child little bit.
Nope.
It's not the sweetness I don't like, it's the carrotiness.
Anywho, that was fun. I can't wait to see the rainbow of carrots that we're gonna harvest. I don't know how many super dark purple ones I have growing in there, but there's at least a couple more.